Then there are things from these years that still follow you. One, black tax. In the African society, even you were raised by the community. Those who are youth in the middle age, in the early ages of youth, 15 to 24, again form a big percentage, 29%. The top earners, all the super rich in Kenya, are only 1% of the population. Life from your past will still follow.
Welcome to the unveiling of untold history documentaries, mastering classes in business management, and sparking insights through money dialogues. This is JephKafka TV, where you discover untold business histories, master the art of management, and ignite money conversations that matter.
Now, several things appear here. One, in the recent statistics that were done in 2019, it's held every 10 years, the age distribution, although this website has tried to update it up to around 2023, 2024, is that those who are between 0 and 15 years are 37%, meaning they are dependents. They are not working, they're living off those who are working. Those who are youth in the middle ages, or rather in the early ages of youth, 15 to 24, again form a big percentage, 29%. Again, these are either continuing schooling, and in an ideal situation, after 18, someone's supposed to have a job, start earning, start supporting his siblings, starts investing and all that. But as you know it, and as it is in Kenya today, that's not always the case. And then there is this working age. Between after 25 all the way to 60, 30% of the population. So they are either in the formal employment or informal employment, that is the blue collar, or they're not even employed, but they form 60%. And that leads me to this big question, because this was shocking for me to find that the people who are 60 years and above are only 4% of the population. Why? Does it mean that life expectancy after this age has gone that low? There was an article in the newspaper some times back that most retirees die within 5 years of retiring. Why? Because one, they do not have an investment to live off after the income they were earning while employed. And as a financial consultant, my kind of advice would be, earn, invest, save, invest in things that will make you money, invest in projects that will earn you an income so that you can be able to live off that income. But then, as a human, I want to look at it realistically. Here comes another set of data. In this set of data, it shows that the top earners, or maybe we can call the super rich in Kenya, are only 1% of the population. And the super rich are classified as people who earn above 2 million shillings, 1%. Then there is the middle class. The middle class plus the super rich form 10% of the population, where there is a lower middle class, those people who earn between 25,000 shillings all the way to 120, and not people, it's households. So meaning for these to be considered a lower middle class household, we're combining the incomes of our spouses and any other person in that household. If it averages from 25,000 all the way to 120, then they are considered lower middle class. If it's above 120, all the way to about 2 million, then they're in the upper middle class. But then again, all these form only 10%, 5% for the lower middle class, 4% for the upper middle class, and 1% for the super rich. So what does that mean? It means that 90% of Kenyans are poor. 90% of Kenyans are poor. And those Kenyans are probably, the reason why that is because most of them will depend on those who are working. And those who are working, again, we have found that that range, or that age between 24 and 60, is only 30%. Poor, meaning that the household income levels is between about 6,000 and 24,999 every month. That is what they're supposed to live on. That's what they're supposed to save. That's what they're supposed to invest to be able to have a life after retirement. So, do you already start to see why this is a reality? That only 4% of the population are above 60 years. Then they are the destitute poor. You know, people who don't know where the next meal will come from. People who do not have a stable source of income. People who, you know, we find them in the streets or wherever, but that forms a big percentage, 5%. So it's true what they say, that 10% of the population control 90% of the resources, while the 90% of the population are poor or destitute poor, and they fight for the 10% of the resources that are there. But is this a political scenario? Is it a religious scenario? Is it a case that can be solved? Because, as you will see in my next presentation, this gap between the rich and the poor keeps on widening. Why? The possible investments that are available for the people in these classes have very low returns, and those returns cannot give them a life, or rather a lifestyle that they were used to when that income is no longer there. Let's look at it from another angle. An ideal situation: you earn what you earn, you invest. Or rather, you earn what you earn, you save what you save, you invest. And after that age, whatever number of years, you'll have enough income to be able to live the same kind of lifestyle for whatever number of years God will give you. But realistically, what happens? You'll find up to now that there are people who are 30 years old and still tamarking. They have not yet found a suitable or a stable source of income. Starting a business becomes again hard. From statistics, again, 80% of businesses fail within the third year. So meaning a very small percentage are able to earn, save, and invest from businesses. Formal employment is again hard to come by because it means you have to work in someone's business. With the rising cost of living, the political climate, the structure of taxes, and all those restrictions of entering into business makes it hard for even employers to absorb this population. So that is the ideal situation. Realistically, what happens? You start earning when you're 30. But then there are things from these years that still follow you. One, black tax. I used to look at it as a bad thing before, you know, like you're now in Nairobi or in a certain town, you've started working, but people at home are still calling because they need your help. I used to look at it as if it's a bad thing, but in the African society, even you were raised by the community. There was a harambe for you to attend school. There was donation from uncles, big brothers, big sisters. There is always someone who is sending money back which in a way to me now, it's like paying forward for your kids or paying backwards for what you already got. So whatever you had planned to save and invest will automatically be taken, part of it, sometimes a huge part, will be taken by black tax. Second things are loans, especially education loans. Those who have gone through HELB know that there's a deduction every month. So whatever gain you had targeted to save and invest doesn't happen that way. Again, in an ideal situation, this is what everyone thinks, that I will get a job, I will get a nice one-bedroom house, I will, save my money as much as I can, I will eat one meal a day, I will use public transport, and that is where the I makes it look as if it's an ideal situation. But then you get a spouse, you get a child. Now here, you start thinking about other costs that are incidental, that you're not factored in when you're imagining the ideal situation for you to save and invest. So when you get a kid, you'll need probably a one-bedroom or a two-bedroom house, meaning your expenses go higher. When you have a spouse, means there's maintenance. When you have kids, means there's school fees. It means there are incidentals that you do not plan for, but they still happen. Things like sickness. You can't plan for it, but it still happen. So meaning that your ability to do as you had planned, because when you meet a financial planner, they'll tell you, save 10,000 shillings every month in a money market fund, earning a certain rate, and by the time you're 60, you'll get this return. But in reality, there are so many factors that will inhibit you from being able to achieve that kind of goal month in, month out. From your past, black tax, loans, from your present, those incidental costs. Because as you're developing as a human, then other dependents are coming in. You have kids, you have school fees, you have projects that you're doing. As much as you'd like to have that perfect kind of investment life, then it doesn't work. Then you reach the retirement age. You're 60. Probably you have invested in some money market funds, you have some shares, you have some properties, and you're set now to live a very good life into the sunset with no stress and all that. But then again, realistically, what happens? Life from your past will still follow. Black tax will still be required. There are many people who are retired, but they're still taking care of their 30-year-olds, their 25-year-olds, because, as we said, employment opportunities are hard to come by. At this age, the body is tired. Illness is like second nature to you being 60. So there's a lot of money being used on medicine, on special diets, on doctors, physiotherapy, etc. So again, if your intention was to live the same kind of lifestyle that you're living here, let's say probably you are living on 100,000 per month, then you'd expect that you have enough investments to be able to give you that kind of life. So considering the disruptions that were here and the disruptions that will come here, then it means it might not be possible to do that. Actuarial scientists know how to calculate that. They'll tell you, if you want to survive on these maybe for the next 40 years, then you must have the 40 years times the 12 months times the 100,000 that you require to survive every month. Then they will work backwards and give you the amount that you're supposed to be saving every month. Which, in an ideal situation, if you're able to do it, well and good. If you're not, then that is why by the time you retire, at 65, 67, 70, 75, you're gone. And these dull statistics prove it. Because what is conceptualized as ideal doesn't always happen in reality. And it shows, therefore, now my second proposition, that when it comes to investments, when it comes to investment advisory, then the fund managers or the investors, investment firms that manage our funds, they tend to target us at our levels of income. So there are products that they'll target for what I would call the poor. And in this case, I would include the middle class there. And then there are investments that they'll target for the rich. And as we shall find out, for the poor, the returns are low. For the rich, the returns are high. For the poor, the investments that you make might not be able to give you this kind of an outlay of capital at the end of your retirement. Because just looking at these, that means if you're to have 100,000 to spend for the next 40 years, it means they must have the investment yield 48 million shillings, not considering inflation and all that. If you go back, then it means during this time, which is about 35 years, they must earn and save more than 100, they must save more than 100,000, and they must earn more than 200,000 so that they can be able to live on their lifestyle of 100 and save the 100,000 for future. But according to this statistics structure, if the upper middle class are earning from 120,000, can they be able to save the 100,000 to be able to live for another 40 years with the same lifestyle of 100,000? For these lower class people, we can't even discuss. Their range is a household is earning 25,000 all the way to 120,000. How about the poor? It's not possible. The destitute poor, they might hardly even make it to 60. So this is my proposition then, that these investment firms, these investment advisors, they advise us according to our classes. If you're poor, they have a product for that. If you're super rich, or what they like to call high net worth individuals, then they have a product for you. So this is my question. Do you think the money market funds are for the poor?
This is JephKafka TV, where you discover untold business histories, master the art of management, and ignite money conversations that matter.